Hi everyone, it's Elle. Okay, I just realized that we really haven't talked a lot about what is postpartum PTSD and what are the signs and symptoms? How does it impact your life? Why don't you want to develop it? So, number one, what is postpartum PTSD? So, postpartum PTSD is actually a complex type of trauma. And by complex, I mean that it occurs when the person that you're supposed to trust in some way creates a traumatic environment, or a traumatic environment occurs during a situation of trust. So maybe it's someone abused you, maybe it's someone sexually assaulted you, maybe it's a family member who really emotionally hurt you over and over again. There are a lot of things that can cause complex PTSD, including a traumatic birth. So, what is the difference between regular PTSD and complex? Well, the biggest thing is when complex PTSD occurs, it's typically it happens around a person of trust. So that could be a physician, that could be a nurse, a parent, a loved one, a friend, something along those lines. And what does PTSD look like in this situation with moms who have recently given birth? So some things that you can um, expect to see, and you may not see all of this. It's just piecemealed, but if you have certainly a couple of these signs and symptoms, get checked out. So the first one is reliving. Are you reliving the experience? Are you having nightmares? Are you having unwanted memories that are obtrusive? They're like impacting your life. Are you having flashbacks? And flashbacks is like, it's almost like you're in a dream state and you're reliving it again, like it's real, like it's in front of you. Okay, the traumatic event. Avoidance. So, avoiding reminders of trauma, the feelings, the thoughts, the people, the places. The way this might look in new mamas is they avoid going to the doctor. They avoid going to the hospital when their baby's in the NICU. They avoid their baby. Some moms may appear just to be a neglectful mom when in all actuality, they have PTSD that's not being treated. So that's something for our early intervention specialist. For anyone who's really working with those young kiddos, NICU OTs, to keep in mind that if there's a mom who's avoiding the NICU, avoiding their child, avoiding those things, it's a sign of trauma. It's not necessarily that they're just some bad parent who's neglectful of their child. The odds are more likely they have good intentions, but they're struggling, they're suffering. All right, arousal. So hypervigilance, there's a sense of threat, easily scared, sleeping problems. You say, moms, this can kind of be like, well, yeah, of course I have sleeping problems. I have a baby that wakes me up every couple of hours. Um, and certainly that can make it harder. That can mask finding these signs and symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. But what you would look at is, do you feel like you're constantly worried? And maybe you're a mom who you're listening to the baby breathe all night long, and you're scared if you sleep for even a minute that that baby is going to die. That would be a sign of hypervigilance and a sense of threat. So you're easily scared. And then the sleeping problems, if they're associated with that, like if you can't fall asleep because you're so concerned about if you sleep, something's going to happen to your baby, that might be a sign of that high arousal. Okay. So maybe you feel worthless. That's something that can be common, if it's impacting your parenting, your PTSD, you can feel like you're just a horrible person. You're a horrible parent. And that's, it's not fair to you, but that's a common sign and symptom of this complex PTSD. Are you having relationship problems? So, new mamas, maybe you're struggling with your relationship with your partner, your other children, your other family members, your friends. If you notice those relationship changes, it could be just that a new baby is coming into your life and your old routine is changing, but it could be something more. Are you having repeated traumas? So, a lot of times with complex PTSD, if you already had PTSD going into your pregnancy, your labor and delivery, um, there's a good chance you will develop PTSD later, right? So even if it's resolved during pregnancy or soon thereafter, you are more likely to get PTSD stemming from your labor and delivery. I mean, it's one of those those things, that once you have depression or you have anxiety or you have PTSD, all of those things become more likely to happen in the future. So you're more susceptible to repeated traumas. So something to look out for. Anger. Are you angry about how the birthing process went? And something that's interesting is I was recently reading that some mental health care providers actually approach PTSD like it's a severe form of grief. And when you think about it, that can make sense for this specifically. So you're grieving um, what you wanted, the birth you wanted, right? The experience that you expected from becoming a mom. And that can turn into all of those different stages of grief. So anger is part of it. And so that makes sense, right? Maybe you're upset, you're mad that things didn't go the way you wanted. Maybe you're just angry in general because your hormones are out of whack. There's so many reasons why you could be angry. Maybe you're angry at your healthcare provider or the hospital because they didn't honor your wishes. There are a myriad of reasons or ways that you could be angry, but looking out for that anger. Have you had a shift in your outlook on people and things? Guilt and shame. You may feel like it's your fault. You may feel ashamed. You don't even want to tell people about what happened. There's so many different ways that this could present. But if you're finding yourself feeling like constantly like, oh my goodness, it's my fault. The baby did this, it's my fault. Maybe because of this, it's my fault. The baby's in the NICU, it's my fault. I constantly feel guilty. I constantly feel like I don't want people to know about all of these things in my life because I'm ashamed. Those can be signs of PTSD. Intimacy problems. So, again, having a baby can really um, be traumatic in and of itself with your body. So, the desire to have sexual experiences or sexual intimacy can definitely alter and change. And that can be something that some moms are afraid to try again. And which makes sense. A baby, a large baby just came out of that sexual organ and it hurts a lot, and you're not sure that you want to do anything else with that sexual organ for the time being. And that's perfectly understandable. But with this, we're looking at intimacy changes that go beyond just that sexual aspect. And even with that sexual aspect, it could be like severe. Like maybe you have a severe fear of intimacy and not just sexual, but also intimate relationships one on one. Maybe your hypervigilance is getting in the way of your intimacy with your partner. Um, so all of those things, you're looking at the big picture, right? That reliving, that avoidance, that arousal, those are the big things, okay? So it might also just look like, let's see, panic attacks. You might feel like all of this stress start to come on and you find yourself breathing shallowly and you're just feeling dread and fear. Okay, so panic attack. It could be irritability in general. So maybe you're just irritable with people in your life, people from work, family, friends. Aggression. Maybe, it's not normally your personality, but you're really pugnacious. You're really wanting to start a fight, right? You're brash, you're in the way, you want to get in the way of people, you want to kind of have that conflict. We talked about being easily startled. We talked about avoiding the baby, and we talked about avoiding anything related to the birth. And then also there's this detachment from relationships. And this is related to that intimacy issue. And what it is you just don't, you are in this alternate reality, so to speak. You are dealing with something that no one else in your circle is necessarily dealing with. And so it's hard. It's hard to maintain those relationships. It's hard to um, make sense of them and to really connect. Something that should be noted throughout all of this is I'm taking the approach of mother developing postpartum PTSD. But fathers can also develop PTSD after the birth of their child. And this fathers who are particularly susceptible are ones that have a history of PTSD or mental health conditions, but specifically PTSD. So if you are a soldier who has seen combat, there is a higher chance that you may develop PTSD after the birth of your child. If you perceive that your partner's life is in danger, your child's life is in danger. So I have a family member whose partner hemorrhaged and nearly passed away during labor and delivery, and this family member has a history of PTSD. And after the birth of their child, um, there was this hypervigilance. So talking to the mother and, constantly, are you feeding the baby enough? Is the baby getting enough milk? Okay, let's give supplement. Let's give the baby some formula. Let's do this. Like constantly worried. I'm constantly worried about the health and welfare of this person's partner. And so that can be a sign, right, that this partner has developed PTSD. And this is something that we should be looking out for as well as therapists, is checking out the partner as well as the mom. Are they jumpy? Is the woman, the mother, describing intimacy problems with her partner? Um, is the partner having emotional regulation problems? Is he flying off the handle? Is he getting upset easily, etc.? And also, we don't just have heteronormative relationships. There are also some lesbian relationships, some relationships with gay men. All of these things with surrogacy and with all different types of way of building a family, we should be looking out for both partners of either gender or sex. Okay, doesn't matter if they're trans, doesn't matter if they're a gay man, doesn't matter if they're lesbian, bisexual, queer, like any of them. We should be looking at both the partners involved in the creation of this baby, as well as anyone else involved, such as a surrogate mother, adoptive mother, etc. So, really, PTSD is one of those things that can show up in the life of anyone involved. So, make sure we're on the lookout as moms, as fathers, as partners in general for these things. And the earlier they're treated, the better. And if they're prevented, even better. That is the best way. Prevention is 100% the best way to approach this. So, dads, moms, any kind of partner, if you're going to go ahead into this birthing experience, like your partner is pregnant, or a surrogate mother is pregnant, or adoptive mom is pregnant, whatever it may be, and you're going to go into this experience, get your mind in tip top shape and go to a counselor, go to a therapist, especially if you have a history of PTSD or depression. Make sure that you can be the best parent, best mental health to give birth to this child, as well as the other best parent as far as supporting your partner and being able to be there mentally, be there for them. All right, everybody, thank you for joining me and learning a little bit about PTSD and what that may look like in the maternal period. Bye.